Here's a really simple animation technique. It's called a line boil. Now, I'm sure you've seen this many times in cartoons, especially on internet animation, where there's often fewer frames of movement, but you'll see that the lines themselves are kind of wiggling. This is called a line boil. It's like the lines are breathing almost. So it's a really simple technique. What we're going to do here is just draw a happy character, and you could test this out in a program like Flip-a-Clip or a free program like Pencil 2D. If you have a drawing tablet, that helps a lot. Or you can just draw along on regular paper, and all you're going to need is 3 sheets of paper to test this technique out. But of course, if you're drawing on paper, you'd need a way to scan it and photograph it and put it in your computer. So really the easiest way is to draw digitally. But what we're going to do here is just have this first drawing, and this is going to be the basis for everything that happens next. So it's really like a kind of an animation cheat, because we don't have to actually animate this guy to have him moving. We're just going to trace him. So on the next frame, we're going to pretty much exactly trace what we just drew, trying not to change the pose too much at all, really, just pretty much a direct trace. And even if you try to trace it perfectly, there's still going to be variations in line width and little details that you're not going to perfectly replicate, which is actually good, because this is going to give it some variety when it starts moving as a movie file, and it'll look like this character's alive as opposed to just a still drawing. So this is a really helpful animation technique if you are wanting to animate just like simple stuff, but you don't have the time or the resources to do a ton of big movements. And if you want to hold a character just in a single pose for a while, this line boil will keep the character looking alive. Whereas if it's just a still drawing with no movement whatsoever, well, it'll just look like a still drawing. It won't look like animation, unless you add some other type of movement like an eye blink or the hair blowing in the wind. If a character doesn't move for 3 seconds, it'll look like a dead doll. That's why it's important to always have some type of motion occur on the screen every couple seconds. You'll even see this in video games where like in an RPG game or something where a character is just talking, you'll see them blink their eyes. And then there's other things like idle animations where, for instance, in Sonic the Hedgehog, if he doesn't move around for a bit, he might start tapping his foot out of boredom. Just little things that add life to your characters. So that's what we're doing here, is we're just drawing one drawing, and then we traced it. And now the final step is to go over one more frame, and this will be the third and final frame. You only need 3 frames to accomplish a line boil. If you do just 2 frames, let me show you what this will look. This is just 2 frames. You can see it has a flickering motion. You need a 3rd frame to make it smoother. Some people make line boils out of 5 frames, but I find that 3 frames just about gets the job done as well, or better than 5 for most scenarios. So with just 3 frames, you can accomplish an effective line boil. And in fact, with limited animation in general, you can accomplish most movements with 3 main frames. And now adding in-betweens, which are the drawings you put in between these key frames, will make the motion more smooth. But if you're just doing like a simple YouTube animation or a story time type thing, a lot of the movements that you see are just done in 3 or 4 frames. And it's all about how you space the drawings apart. That's the key. Effective spacing. But for this, we don't even have to worry about spacing because we just have one key drawing that we're doing. Now, you could add, if you were doing like something where this character is gonna say like move over here, you could do that and then draw another line boil sequence of 3 frames wherever he lands, just to keep him breathing. But as you can see, I'm just trying to trace the 2 drawings here. Now my light box is actually showing both drawings at once. That way I can try to keep the line consistent within the 2, find a happy medium in between. Alright, so now we're going to play the animation. And this is what a line boil looks like. So it's actually, this isn't perfect because I can see some flickering on his head up here. And the eyes are kind of wiggly. There's kind of some flickering on the black of his mouth. But really that's all just up to personal taste. The effect is accomplished in that it keeps the character breathing and kept him alive. But I'm gonna just try to tweak this a little bit so that it's not as distracting to me, the differences in the line wiggle. So I'm just going over where it was kind of flickering too much. And now I'm actually going to turn my light box off, and so I can more clearly see how each frame looks individually and how it looks in the context of the frame after and before. So see, I'm darkening up the mouth here. I couldn't do that when the light box was on because sometimes when you have a light box on, it's a little too distracting to focus on any single picture because you're looking more at the context of all the frames as they flow together. So that's a lot better in the face. I think I can live with this. Part of it too is the brush I'm using is a kind of a pencil brush, so there's a lot more variety in the texture. Whereas if you're just using like a normal black pen tool, you won't have as much texture or any texture to deal with. But one of the downsides to that is it can sometimes look too digital, for lack of a better word, or too robotic, more cold. There's a coldness to digital art. That's why when I'm drawing digitally, I always try to emulate the hand-drawn look, because I think hand-drawn stuff kind of has a timeless appeal. If you think about movies, you know, like Snow White came out in 1939, and that still looks amazing, but it was all done with old materials. Like, drawings don't ever age, whereas CGI, computer-generated imagery, every few years they've completely updated the graphics software and packages such that people can see an obvious change in quality every few years, and then the things from 10 years ago start to look pretty dated. But that doesn't happen with physical art. Like, for instance, the Mona Lisa is always gonna look amazing. It's never gonna look like oil painting is a dated technology. Thanks for subscribing. Let me know what I should draw next, and if you want to see more animation type tutorials, or if I should stick mainly with just drawing characters. I'm happy to do either one or both. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for liking and subscribing.